Good morning. It is the Friday Grief Chat, and we are excited to be here.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
I'm Jill,
I'm Deb.
and we are glad to have you here.
We are, I love calling it Friday Grief Chat. And you know, uh, I love our audience. I'm really grateful for the things people send me during the week and things to talk about. And, you know, anticipatory grief is so real for so many reasons. Perhaps it starts off as anxiousness. I didn't realize that I actually get anxious because I used to just be so busy right before trips. And um, next week I'll be here, but the following week I will not because I'll be in Italy.
That's right, you will be.
Yeah.
I forgot completely.
And so the grief that I was talking about is it's an anxiousness. It's well, I have all my marbles and ducks in a row. Not that ducks and marbles should be together, but
No, or the ducks go in a row.
or the ducks go in a row. But that was sort of a interesting way of looking at what I call micro griefs. I mean, they're just passing moments of maybe feelings of inadequacy or things I can't do or I don't do as well as I
Fear of
used to
loss
do
of
10
ability.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just realizing all the ways it impacts everybody, and including if my voice sounds a little um stretched, I have a voice. So it's still a little interesting, but this week I didn't have a voice very much, and it it was another loss of like, when am I getting over this thing? So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, it's a
All the
grief
little
chat.
losses. It
All
is.
all the losses. How about you, Jill? How's things at your in
At
your
our end of
journey?
the world, I'm seeing a lot of losses right now with folks who are losing pieces of their image, their self-image as things
Yes.
change. Loss of ability to control parts of their body, loss of ability to keep teeth in their head,
Yes,
which goes
Keith.
along with lots of chronic illness and age.
Yes. I
Um,
just want to say in dream interpretation,
mhm.
uh, losing teeth was an upcoming grief. That's a motif. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got several people who have experienced that in this last couple of weeks.
Hmm.
And it's sort of that, oh, my body's failing me, or I've failed my body, which is also something we hear in our dementia support group, which I did last week. For those who don't know, there is a free dementia support group on the third Saturday of every month at 10 a.m.
Hmm.
Pacific. And it's just drop in. Just let us know if you want to come. We'll send a link. But in that group, it's the loss of connection, the anticipated loss of connection in the future, the
Hmm.
recognition of losses that have occurred as people in the group say, no, your loved one was doing better than that 6 months ago. This description is different. There have been some significant changes.
Yeah.
And loss of connection with those with dementia who, when the person with dementia won't recognize that they have dementia,
Mm.
adamantly refuse to acknowledge it, although they are aware of it, and thereby refuse to allow any intervention or to give the family any relief.
Hmm.
So that the family is stumbling around trying to take care of things for someone who really needs taking care of. There's just there's so many ways loss can show up in our lives.
I just want to say, I watch Chicago Med, a TV show,
Hmm.
and they have been in several different ways. They have a character who now has Alzheimer's. Well, they can't truly diagnose Alzheimer's. there's enough of the uh, signs and symptoms to say most likely this is this kind of dementia. Anyway,
Mhm.
and the ex, because she's single,
Mhm.
and now her ex is the male gentleman. It was really great when they showed a, a genuine response. Although I know everything is speeded up for an hour or whatever they do for
Mhm.
TV, you know, she was like, this is all going to fall on me. And so you could see in her face how she was grieving
The
her
loss of
own
life as she knows
potential.
it. Yeah.
Right. And and as they talk about, he's not in every episode, but as they talk about it on TV, she said, no, he's okay for tonight. He doesn't like that he's had to move in, and I've labeled everything and stuff. But you know, you do your best and you forgive the rest. There's
Mhm.
so much the caregiver cannot control except sort of only the forwardness.
And
You
their own responses to it. But that takes
That's
a
right.
lot of effort,
It does.
and you have to recognize you're having those responses, which means allowing yourself to recognize that you are a human being and you can get frustrated too.
Exactly.
And that perhaps loved ones are different kinds of human beings and are not willing to step up. And a sadness and loss in recognizing that children or siblings or extended family or friends don't have the qualities you sort of imagined and needed them to have.
Exactly. And it's like, so you get a loss of the friends you thought who might step up, loss from expectation. There's certain gratefulness because you're always surprised who does.
Right.
And I can't stress this enough, whether it's a hospice, whether it takes whether it's dementia, whenever someone is on the downslope of
Hmm.
from living to dying, I hope our listeners feel and hear this, that you will have many thoughts, and some will seem like the most unspiritual, unkind, un-Buddhist like, Talmud like, everything. It'll seem so foreign that you would
And so
think such a
wrong.
cruel thing in your. You, I'm going to tell you now, you're not a mass murderer because you have had that thought. You are not a mean person because you had that thought. There is this gambit of examples that our brain is uh, subject to every day, and sometimes those thoughts seem like they just go in one ear and out the other, but they get in there. And perhaps you watched a show, you know, Dexter, where he cut them up in pieces. I'm just using
Oh,
that
good
as
God.
an example.
Uh-huh.
But you're not going to cut your loved one up in pieces, and you're not a bad person because you want them dead so they stop suffering. You're not bad. You're not a mass murderer. You're not going to jail. Jill and I, we have probably between us at least 1,000 examples or high hundreds of the people that we have talked to because you have had that thought. Because your first thought is, I don't want them to suffer. It doesn't seem like it because maybe your loved one is saying, I just want to die. I just want to die. And they are saying it like 30 times a minute because
Hmm.
they're in pain or they're confused. They may not even be feeling pain, but you get stuck on a loop. Oh, do we have somebody here?
Our guest Talia is here. I am so excited. Let me bring you on, Talia.
Oh, Talia.
This is Talia Bombola, and she is an amazing, energetic, never stops kind of a therapist.
Very true. Thank you.
Amazing. Oh, Talia.
Deborah,
Humor, I so wanted to meet you. And then off camera, I want to introduce you to a whole place where your skill set will be appreciated.
Okay, I would love that.
Stay on when we go off because we can talk backstage.
Okay.
So Talia, can you introduce yourself to everybody and tell them what you want them to know about yourself and the work that you do?
Yes. So my name is Talia Bombola. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. I also work as a coach / mentor for women in business who feel like they're deriving their self-worth from a lot of their productivity and how to not do that and just enjoy what they do and not have it dictate their worth. I also have a few podcasts. I work as a college professor and I'm a new mom. So if I didn't have enough on my plate already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. And where's the humor in that?
I think that I did it to myself. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just add one more thing to this.
Right.
I love this.
You kept it a secret when you were pregnant. I love that.
I did. I did not announce until she was 3 months old. So people were like, wait, what? You were pregnant? That's just me because I like the reaction. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now you are doing a podcast yourself.
Yes. One of my podcasts called Heal Through Humor, because I think humor is, honestly, it's necessary, especially in the field that we're in with therapy and with things being so heavy all the time, especially in the last 4 years since the pandemic and even before that with the state of the world. I think the ability to view things through a lens of humor, well-timed humor, not like a poorly timed joke, well-timed humor really does help people heal. And especially in my therapy sessions, when I'm with my clients, letting them have that space to grieve or to be sad or to be angry or feel all of the emotions that they need to, and then being able to make it lighthearted or lighten the load a little bit for them helps them keep things in perspective. So it's not just all one emotion. So my podcast goal was to bring on other guests to be able to laugh, but talk about serious topics or talk about dating, relationships, business, mental health, anything that I think sounded relevant, but that needed more of a humorous spin to it.
Yes.
When you're in the therapy room, do you find yourself needing to give your clients permission in their grief to laugh because they've got so many eyes on them outside telling them that laughter is inappropriate?
Yes. Like why would they be laughing at a time like this? Or there's nothing to be happy about right now. It's all sadness. It's a lot of like sadness from Inside Out, the movie. It's like that's their archetype of like how they should be when they're grieving, which is for some absolutely genuine, and for some that's not the case. They can still find the humor in life. They can still find the joy or the happiness in those, silly moments. I worked with a client once who their dog passed away, and the family was incredibly sad, and I'm a big pet person too, so I was crying with my client, and they said, but the funniest thing happened. We were walking by, I forget what threshold in their house they were walking by, and their dog used to let out like the most horrendous farts. And the whole family was like, do you smell that? They all laughed. They were like, oh my gosh, our pet is here with us. Like they were able to laugh and find the humor in it. So
that's great.
I do find that I have to give them permission. Like it's okay that there's other parts of your life that are going well, even when there's grief in this part of your life. And that doesn't mean humor can't be with you in this time. In fact, it's what does heal us in this time, to be able to laugh and think of the happy memories that we had during grief as well.
It's what keeps us alive too, because grief is so stressful.
Yes. And it's, I think for our body also, to have laughter and that joy, or like the laughter till we're crying. And I can't tell you how many clients are like, oh, I needed that. Like they needed that release, like the happy tears, not only the sad tears. If the client is somebody to express sadness through tears.
Yeah.
There is an organization, and I'll share it on here, called the Association for Applied Therapeutic Humor. And so, yes, we'll talk later.
We're both members.
Yes, we're both members of that.
Oh.
And actually, I got a lifetime achievement member from them. And yes, but Steve Sultanoff, I don't have the definition written in front of me, but how interesting. There is a difference between uh, therapeutic humor and humor that is therapeutic. Applied therapeutic humor is when either through maybe intuition or actual, how can I apply humor? And so in a therapy session or a coaching session for me, sometimes I see a client starting to what I call spiral downward. And I'll go, just a moment. And I might take a red nose and put it on, because in that moment, you're like, you sort of want to stop the spiraling if it's not going to help.
True.
And then and so you want to change the energy, if just for a moment, to see what happened.
That's a good point.
For instance, this has nothing to do with a therapy session, but I often carry red noses with me when I'm traveling. And there was a moment in an airport. I was traveling with my husband. All hell broke loose because they changed the flight schedule. There was this, there was that, and people were very upset. So I said, what can I do for only a moment? So I stood in line, as my husband usually says, you go up there. And I put on a red nose and I just stood there. And the woman in front of me said, that's not funny. And I went, you are correct. And that's all I said. And I just kept going. But other people saw it and they appreciated the dichotomy. What ways do you apply humor in your session besides talking about dog farts? Like, is there something that you do, while each client is different? Is there something that you do? What also do you do for your own life to apply humor? Or is considering you just had a kid?
Yeah. I would say for the clients that I work with, the other ways that I try to apply humor is not to make a joke out of, but to make light of the situation that they're going through. Some couples that I work with, it's very tense, it's very heavy, there's a lot of conflict, and sometimes I will suggest including humor. Now I've taught them operational definitions of like the well-timed humor, so it doesn't feel like you're being made fun of. And I had one couple, they were going back and forth, very deeply afraid, honestly, of commitment because of this medical issue that was going unaddressed in both clients. And I made at the end of the session, it felt appropriate to make light of it. At the end, I said, you want to know the best part about this if you're able to work through it. And they both were like leaning in like, yes, what was it about? And it was about oral health for one of the people. And I was like, but the both of you, when you're 80 years old, looking back at that, might not even have teeth. So this is going to be a non-issue that we don't even need to fight about it. And they both started laughing. And they were like, I see your point. Like it's bringing things out to a macro perspective that
yes,
what emotion behind it is so valid, but we can still make light of the actual content of it. So I give them permission to, not in a self-deprecating way, but in a freeing way, make fun of themselves, laugh at themselves, be silly, be playful, and be able to have that sense of humor come back online if it hasn't been. And that's definitely what being a mom has taught me, that there's no plan really. Like you can have some semblance of a plan, but you have to let go of control and hope for the best. And there's so many things that happen that I just can't help but laugh, because any other emotion would be probably so overwhelming that the humor is a coping skill. And I think being able to see the light in a situation of, and I'll talk to her like she's kind of a mini grown up of like, don't worry about it that you spit up on that. I actually didn't want to wear that shirt anyway, so I'm going to go change. and we'll head out the door. So it helps me not have those small things that don't go as planned, or when it's just you in your life. A lot of stuff can go planned, but when you have a baby, it's like you're on their schedule. So I just try to make light of it in my own life. If something happens, I'm like, oh, silly me. Like there's that thing that happens again, rather than being like the negative self-talk, like, oh, you're so stupid, you're such an idiot. Like that doesn't really come up anymore. It's more humorous self-talk, I think, or positive. So
Exactly.
Every
I
time
love
I
it.
get a call from a friend with a new child, and that's that first, every parent has this, no matter how old their child is when they arrive, that first time that they roll off the couch, right?
yeah, or the bed,
Or the bed, or they jump up and they hit themselves, right?
Yep.
And so when someone calls in a panic, oh my God, this just happened. I'm like, oh, you're in the club now. Good.
Yes.
You can take that off
You're
the
good.
list.
You're good.
Right?
Yes, right. Check it off the list. Yes.
I know. But this is serious, Jill. I think you want to, check them with the doctor. But no, this really is part of life as a parent.
You'll laugh one day. Yes.
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 Exactly.
I think about that element of minimization, like saying, oh, welcome to the club. And then there's the like exaggeration.
Yes.
Like, oh my, well, actually, welcome to the club is the exaggeration. Minimization is, brain problems don't show up for, 20 years or something like that. That
They'll
would
be
be
way older and they won't know to blame you, but that
yeah,
point, so
they
fine.
won't blame
Yeah.
you then.
The person's like, wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
So-
really is just the first.
Yeah. Jill and I both have older children. And I think mine are, I don't know how old Carrie is for you.
32.
How old?
Mine are 32, turning 30, and 28.
And mine are in their 40s.
Yeah.
So there you go. And grandchildren have rolled off. One time I heard my stepdaughter say to her daughter as she falls off a bench at Cracker Barrel, oh my God, I'll buy you a pony.
Right. It's just one of those things.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about what is it, what are some other things that you have done? Because you have a wide list, a little bit about your podcast.
She also has a shop online. I don't know if it's completely active yet, but it's awesome.
I do.
Oh,
I
tell me more.
I have a shop. I think I made it in 2019. Yeah, a long time ago. That's a long time. Wow, time flies. And it has t-shirts and mugs that have like either snarky sayings or like quippy sayings. So I get a lot of comments when I wear the shirts out, because two of my bestsellers, one of them said, I'm telling my therapist you said that. And then the other one is, sorry, I can't. My therapist said no. And so I'll wear them out because it's like my merch, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. Where'd you get it? And I'm like, oh, it's from this. Like I sent it, and they're like, oh, I didn't know it was yours. And I'm like, not downplaying it intentionally, but I just have so much else going on that I'm like, here's the link for it, because we're updating it right now.
Oh, that's great.
Having the humor, I wear it in session too, and some of my clients are like, oh my gosh, I want to wear that shirt. And the other one I have, the shirt and mug, is setting boundaries like it's my job. That one's another bestseller. So
that's on my computer.
Yeah. Because having a reminder of the humor where it's still talking about mental, still talking about humor, I think goes a long way. And just like the red nose example, it starts a good conversation for people who may otherwise be maybe having a tough day, and it lightens their day, or they may be like, oh, therapy, that's normal. Like it kind of puts it in their head, like it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to make light of that and have humor in the help too. I think therapy is far too serious. That's also why I want to do the podcast, show the other side of therapists, that like we can crack a joke. Not all of us, but like we can crack a joke. We can be funny. There is a level of happiness that we can reach. It's not always the deep-seated, intense, what we like, a lot of my clients call like the negative, like the bad emotions they weren't allowed to feel growing up. It was like only good emotions, happy, joy. That's all they were safe to feel. we feel all of them in my sessions, and I try to help clients or people who listen to the podcast know that it's okay to feel all of those things and still have that sense of humor, even if it is a tough time.
We can absorb it all, hold the space for it all, still be okay,
Yes.
and still laugh.
Yes.
Yes.
Survive.
And survive.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the musical Falsettos. It's about 4 Jewish men. A couple of them are gay. One's a psychiatrist, and one isn't a man yet, but he's going to be getting a bar mitzvah. And the psychiatrist who married the mother of the boy, anyway, the boy is hating how his divorced parents are arguing, and what do I do? What do I do? And I'm mad at them and I hate them. And so the psychiatrist says, everyone hates their parents, except when you get older, you hate them less. And so, and they made this whole song about it. And it puts things, humor puts things in perspective.
True.
And it also, where you're really tight about something, whether. Can you still hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Now
you
we
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Am I still here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Jill?
Yes, you are. Oh,
You're
Deb
good.
is not able to see us or hear us.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. The wonders of technology. That's the other part of humor.
True.
Right? Getting through
Oh.
that.
Oh, I blocked out. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
So tell us about the end of the show.
Oh, so what humor does, it's the shock absorbers for when you're really tight and you have to go over those bumpy roads. And that is I'm paraphrasing a quote, but it doesn't lighten the load. It just helps you get through the bumpy parts.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's sarcasm, which is a great, like, snarky, or I used to wear, "Dear God, please medicate me the way my psychiatrist wants me to," or something like that. Please.
A great prayer.
Yeah. Or let me be the person my dog thinks I am.
Yes.
I love that one.
Yes.
So,
I wear the one that says my dog is my best therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wear it to therapist conferences, it will piss people off sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not competing.
Exactly. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And my dog sits on my shoulder in session at times.
Yes.
Yes.
Same thing with my cat.
Aww.
In fact, I did I was doing a conference for the Navy, and Fred was just beside himself because he just wanted to be part of it. So he ended up on my lap, and then I was talking and I looked back down and my name had expanded on the bottom and it said Jill Johnson Young and Fred. And by the time it was an 8-hour training, by the time the training day ended, they had made an evaluation for Fred. So
that's great. That is
and
so
that was
great.
a grief program, and it was awesome. But yeah, Fred got hugely high marks.
Good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
We need to get Talia to come to the International Death, Grief, and Bereavement Conference
Yes.
when the baby's a little older. This is probably the wrong year for that.
Yeah.
But it's the first week. For those who don't know and haven't heard us talk about it before, it is the first Monday through Wednesday in June every year in La Crosse, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. La Crosse is a fun little town. It's got amazing ice cream. It's got more bars per square inch than any town in the country.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And school's out, so we get the town to ourselves.
Perfect.
And it's on the Mississippi River.
It's
just a
so
cool
beautiful.
place to hang out. Huh? Yeah.
What more could you want? I love it.
Exactly. And it's a bunch of weird grief people who hang out together and learn good stuff. And we have big name people, but it's small. So it's not intense in terms of presentation style. It's just comfortable. So yeah, I hope someday you will join us there.
I'd love to. Yeah, I think next year might be a better year.
Yes.
And I think that is one part that I do miss, like talking to people and interacting with other professionals in different fields as well, and like making them laugh and like cracking jokes. Because before I got pregnant, was dabbling in stand up like on the side, separate from being a therapist, and I
Good for
learned a
you.
lot. Very humbling, because it's so much different to have to go on stage and be funny and tell anecdotes, rather than it's like you're just riffing back and forth in a conversation. And I know I learned my sense of humor, I'm sure, from my family, but also as like a coping skill to like break the tension or not feel awkward in social settings. And I'm like, well, what could I do? Be funny. But I love doing that at conferences. So I would love to go to that conference. That sounds
We'd love
very
to have you. I'm
Yes.
speaking to the California State Judges Association in May, and I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out how my sense of humor is going to work with
there.
judges. Right.
Yes.
Snarky. I vote
different kind.
snarky.
And I'm doing the CAMPT conference, the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, the night before. So
Oh, wow.
I have to go from therapist land to attorney land in 12
Yes.
hours.
Try your jokes out with the therapist, and then just like stand up, do it again.
Right?
Next time. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to have to really do some good cue music on the way onto stage.
True.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with what doesn't kill you makes you stronger for the judges.
Yeah.
That might be good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it was wonderful having you here. We will get all your stuff put back out. This will go out on our podcast as well, which is on all the podcast platforms. And if you're listening to this afterward, we're really glad you're here. Please leave us a review. We'd love to have you. Next week, we have an attorney coming who's going to be talking about all the things that you need to do before you die, and all the things you have to do if you're the one grieving and trying to cope with all the paperwork someone left behind for you to do. It's hugely important, and it's an expensive topic, and so we're going to get all the good information out at zero cost as much as we can, and so people can start thinking about it. Because what's the one thing you hear when you are talking to someone who is a new widow or widower in particular, and you say, okay, now you got to redo all your paperwork, because now they're not here to make all your decisions.
Right.
And that's when the humor comes in too. And then they really do have to do it. And then they're talking about their own death. So we're going to get people talking about that next week, so that hopefully we can help people not fall into muck after a loss.
Hopefully.
Okay. Thanks everyone for being here. Talia, thank you for being here. Deb, I will see you next week, but not after that, because you're running away to Italy.
I am.
And then the week after, I'm running away to Mexico.
Yes.
Bye, everybody. I know. We believe in vacation.
Bye-bye, everyone.